All right. Good morning. Good morning there. Day after Monday. It's a Tuesday today, and a day after a very difficult day. Of course, Mondays are very, very difficult days. We're back on your screens. We're welcoming you into our studios. Thanks for welcoming us into your homes, your offices, wherever you are. TV3 is live. Agenda New Day is live, and we're broadcasting across the country. My name is Brad. Johnny and Anthony Jackson are also here. Good morning, gentlemen.
Yeah, Anthony is showing me his prescription.
Oh, for what? For what we're buying tramadol these days.
He's showing me his prescription. I mean, he wants to cure sycomonia. You know. Good morning, guys. It's Tuesday. Interesting times ahead. I just read a document that says Pastor Mensa Otebel has been responding to the issues, on the Capital Bank and all of that. And the question that comes to me straight away is, was Pastor Mensa Otebel also misled? Because he will sign documents as board chairman to wrap up the banking year for a bank. Maybe I don't know how it works.
Wow.
So the documents that were presented to him, what was contained in the document? Did he read the document? Was it read to him? Maybe he was busy. I don't know. But it's about a 9-point statement that says that, well, some of the outcomes were unforeseen. Some of them were good decisions, bad decisions, and he was motivated by the fact that a young man who came from a disadvantaged background had come to him, and he was creating employment and opportunities, and he thought that, well, he wants to support entrepreneurial and all of that. So, I mean, well, I don't know. But my question is, was Pastor Mensa Otebel also misled? I mean,
but is it that we tend to pronounce people guilty before investigations are done?
I think so. I think that once your matter comes up, I mean, if you look at what's happening, for example, in the UT Bank, Ibrahim Mahama, Afenyomaking, the issues that are coming up, they are already being pronounced guilty. Whereas there's a full document that has been authored, another media house says it's exclusive to them. But they are not questioning those who authored the document. Because if Bright authors a document and it's about me, and you pick it as exclusive, and I say whatever document has been authored by Bright is not authentic, who do you go to? Do you come to me for clarification, or do you go to Bright, the author of the document, to tell you whether or not? Because I have said that the document that has been authored about me or with me in it is fake. So you go to the author. Why do you stay with the information in
Johnny,
the document?
I think that this issue, all we need is the investigations to unravel if there's anything that we need to find out. But you see, let us try as much as we can to take customers of the bank, of these banks, clients of these banks. Look, I am a customer of a bank. I put together a proposal that says that I want to do X, Y, Z. And then I drop the proposal with the bank. The bank has a board, they have management, and all that. They go through and then loan me the money. Now, the contractual agreement says, look, I will pay you back the loan after this project is running, and that you even have the right to come and set up a branch of the bank at the premises of the company, so that you collect daily monies there. How do you blame me if the bank goes down? Okay, because I didn't put a gun to your head to say that give me the loan to go and build the factory. I put in a proposal, and I assume that it was not one person who said that. Go ahead, give him the loan. It was a meeting, a board meeting, and management, and they agreed that let's go into this. So we should be careful, like Anthony was asking, to judge people and say that they're guilty before. Let the investigations go on. Let's see what actually happened. I think that we're running too much commentary on it, and it's getting
murkier. You see, for Pastor Mensa Otebel, for example, he's saying that he has not commented publicly because he has been submitting himself to the processes.
Exactly.
The Yoko has invited him.
He had not.
He has been responding to it.
No,
But you see, he said that the silence, some people are perceiving the silence to be an admission of guilt.
Guilty.
And it is true.
But who
It's
can
true.
pronounce you guilty
Look,
until
whoever started?
Brad, this is
I don't
Ghana,
know. I don't know who
whereby
started.
if you allow people to express themselves over an issue, we tend to believe you are guilty. Because right now, if you go on social media, which is where most people are getting their news from, more people seem to be talking about the customers who have lost their money and how Otabel supervised this. And when you read the
people who have lost
he said
their
he
jobs.
wasn't part of the day-to-day management of the bank.
But you see, Pastor Menso Otabel is a man of God, and I'm sure he's read the Bible over and over and over again, and he knows what they did to Jesus. So if he knows that, why would you? What is it that they said good about Jesus? Nothing. But he kept quiet until he had finished his job. So for me, I would have loved he didn't come out at all, based on teachings from the Bible, waited for the investigations to finish, and then he shouldn't be put under pressure at all.
Anyway.
If he says he's submitting himself to due process, that's the best for me.
Well, I don't know who started the hashtag on Facebook. I stand with Otabel. But I think that hashtag itself is unfair to Pastor Mensa Otabel.
But is it? But Johnny,
it's unfair to him.
It is.
I don't know who started it, but it's unfair.
I'm saying that.
Well, it was obvious it was going to come out.
Yeah.
The minute these issues
anyway.
I have always argued that when people tend to bash other people, they should remember that, you see, when you point your finger at someone, there are others pointing at you. And I have always used that woman in the Bible that Jesus saved and said, which of you has not committed any sin? Throw the first stone.
Right.
Okay, so for me, let's keep these things where it belongs to.
Anyway,
and leave it for.
Let me say a quick happy birthday to Mrs. Barbara Linsoa, wife of Franklin So of the Graphic Communications Group Limited. And it's from your son, Joy, and Zoe as well. Happy birthday to you, Barbara Linsoa.
You're always wishing happy birthday.
Yes.
We
need to celebrate
birthday before the news comes up. Set open. Then the news comes up shortly right after this. Good morning and welcome to Morning News on New Day. My name is Anthony Jackson. Let's look at the headlines for this morning. President Akufo-Addo has reiterated government's commitment to support programs aimed at protecting the environment. Government intends to construct 10,000 housing units for the security agencies to address its accommodation challenges. The police in Tamale have taken charge of the Tamale Teaching Hospital after some Irish youth believed to be MPP sympathizers chased out the chief executive officer from his office. And on the foreign front, Trump signs defense policy bill with watered-down China measures. Now, President Akufo-Addo has reiterated government's commitment to support programs aimed at protecting the environment. He gave the assurance at the launch of the Youth in Afforestation program in Kumasi.
The Youth in Afforestation program is aimed at restoring degraded forest lands. It is aimed to enhance food and cash crop production. Energy Minister John Peter Mewu noted the program is one of the job creation interventions by government.
I wish to entreat all the workers under this program to embrace it not only as a source of employment, but also as an avenue of creating a very resilient environment for the present and future generations. Over 2 million seedlings have already been distributed to youth in Galamsey as part of Alternative Livelihood Project.
Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission, Kwejo Owusu-Efriye, called for more funds to increase the intake.
The agreement the Forestry Commission signed was initially to recruit 15,000 youth But as I speak, Your Excellency, it is subscribed. As a result of interest expressed by the teeming youth, and currently over 60,000 beneficiaries have been engaged. About 30% of them are women.
President Akufo-Addo described the rate of deforestation and environmental degradation as worrying.
2016 manifesto of my party, the New Patriotic Party, we indicated strongly our commitment to forest rehabilitation and forest protection activities, realizing that forest cover has been significantly depleted in these last few decades. That is today why we're deploying an army of some 20,000 young men and women who are going to help restore our degraded forests.
He added stringent efforts are being undertaken by government to reverse the trend. The initiative is a joint partnership between the Forestry Commission and the Youth and Employment Agency.
The government intends to construct 10,000 housing units for the security agencies to address its accommodation challenges. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, made this known when he performed the sword cutting ceremony for the construction of 320 housing units at the cost of $45 million for the police service at its training school at Tesano in Accra.
The project comprises 102 two-bedroom facility and another 208 three-bedroom apartments for the service. It would have community center, a school, sports and recreational centers. The project is expected to provide 800 direct and indirect jobs. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, expressed concern about Ghana's housing deficit, which currently stands at 1.7 million and could rise to 2 million by 2020. He said government intends to roll out another 10,000 housing units for the security agencies to address its accommodation challenges.
As government strives to meet the accommodation needs of the Ghana Police Service, I pray that the service will meet the highest standards of professionalism which is required of them. I urge the Amandi Holdings Group Limited, who are the builders under this project, to continue to show the same levels of efficiency with which they undertook the construction of the previous security housing projects.
The Inspector General of Police, David Asante Apietu, lauded government for facilitating the project.
This project, when completed, will certainly be a morale booster to those personnel who will be accommodated. It will further serve as a source of hope for many who make do with substandard structures.
Minister for Works and Housing, Samuel Atachia, underscored the need for providing befitting accommodation for the security services.
I'm in active collaboration with my colleague Minister for Interior that let's give every barracks anywhere in this country, if you stepped out and you saw where those who superintend over safety are residing, it will be a place of dignity.
Minister of the Interior, Bruce Derry, hinted on an 800 million cedi earmarked by government to retool the police service.
As I speak to you, the present ratio of police to civilian population is 1:848, which is far worse than what the UN requires of 1:500. Thanks to Mr. President, we're recruiting this year 4,000 police, unprecedented, the highest ever achieved in Ghana.
The project would be executed by Amandi Holdings, an Israeli company.
And the police in Tamale have taken charge of the Tamale Teaching Hospital after some irate youth believed to be MPP sympathizers chased out the chief executive officer from his office. The group is accusing Dr. David Kolbila of incompetence.
They were bent on their mission, Just step out, they ordered the chief executive officer. Not even the presence of visitors in his office deterred them. Speaking in Dagbani, they said, "Can you buy us? Take everything you have in the office and leave. We're locking this place up." Dr. David Zaumia Kolbila was appointed in June last year after a similar attack on the former CEO of the hospital, Dr. Prosper Akambong, by the same group. His office has since been under lock and key, taken away by the irate group. The group, in an interview with Joy News, justified their action.
It won't be the last and it won't be the first time again, because we, the youth, we go with truth, and we always make sure that truth will prevail. Any other person that the president will nominate or appoint to head this facility, and that person is not correct, I swear heaven and earth, we will come back. We will come back and sack that person. Initially, I told you that Dr. Kolbila is having 7 companies registered in his name, and he's awarding contracts for himself. You understand? He goes out and buy ordinary gloves, examination gloves, which is 23 Ghana cedis. And when he comes to the hospital, he will escalate or parachute the price to 70 Ghana cedis per packet.
The police, who got to the scene after the group had left, say they are yet to contact Dr. Kolbila and also identify the culprit.
Still in the northern region, the police have launched an investigation following the death of 3 herdsmen believed to be Burkinabe nationals. Their decomposed bodies were retrieved from the forest near Kalidu in the Bol district. The 3, identified as Osman Hadi, 18 years, Lassani Saku, 21 years, and Haruna Hussein, 19 years, were reported to have taken their cattle to the forest to graze and did not return home. The owner of the cattle, Zakari Yahaya, had earlier reported that 3 of his herdsmen were missing. After a thorough search, their bodies were found dead in the forest. The bodies were released to the family for immediate burial at the crime scene due to the state of decomposition. Now, the Greater Accra Regional Security Council has directed chiefs in the Gamashi to limit the traditional sprinkling of pepli to their homes and palaces only. The RECSEC directive followed threats from various factions in the area not to allow certain chiefs to perform the traditional rites. An emergency RECSEC meeting early on Monday arrived at a decision in order to prevent avoidable conflict. The Accra Regional Police Command has also been encouraged to intensify security to ensure there is no violation that would lead to conflict. The annual Homowa celebration of the people of Ga and Ga Dangbe has never been peaceful among the people of Gamashi as a result of persistent chieftaincy disputes. And the Ghana Association of Bankers is justifying the decision by Bank of Ghana to support well-managed local banks raised 400 million cedis minimum capital requirement. President of the association, Alhassan Andani, explains that arguments that the central bank is bending its own rules are flawed.
About government and a central bank being responsive to legitimate concerns raised that there's a need to have significant domestic presence. When I say domestic presence, local shareholders driven and led banks that will sort of be part of the financial intermediation. They would expect that after some time, when these banks have gained roots and properly managed and making profit, they would pay back, you know, or the government will put those shares back onto the stock exchange for the generality of Ghanaians to participate in.
Alhassan Andani assured depositors that interventions by the central bank will ultimately safeguard their funds.
Part of the action taken by the central bank is to protect these depositors. As an association, we are happy they've done that all the time, you know, and making sure the people in between, the central bank making sure that the intermittent reviews of our operations brings up these issues and they deal with it in a timely manner. So yeah, my plea with our depositors and the general public is that together with the central bank, the financial services industry has shown an absorptive capacity. Yeah. We're not saying there aren't things to be done. There are great things errors and things to be corrected, but it's good we're going the way we're going.
4 months to meet the deadline, some indigenous banks are reportedly working out modalities to reduce their staff strength. More than 3,000 professionals in the banking sector are expected to be affected in a move intended to, among other things, reduce the bank's operational cost as they consider many options, including measures and acquisitions, to raise the 400 million cedis minimum capital requirement.
Now, the founder and general overseer of the International Central Gospel Church, ICGC, Dr. Mensa Otabil, has absolved himself of any blame in the collapse of Capital Bank a year ago. Dr. Otabil, who was the board chairman of the defunct bank, was cited in the financial malfeasance that led to the mismanagement of some 610 million cedis financial supports given to the bank by the Bank of Ghana. Since the autopsy report on the collapse of the bank surfaced last week, the charismatic pastor has received a barrage of criticism and mocked by many on social media of how he superintended over the collapse of the indigenous bank. But the pastor this morning issued a statement to disassociate himself from events leading to the collapse of the bank. Now let's do some foreign news. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump signed a $716 billion defense policy bill on Monday that authorizes military spending and includes watered-down controls on U.S. government contracts with China's ZTE Corp and Hawaii Technologies Co. Limited. Trump signed the law at the U.S. Army's Fort Drum Base in upstate New York on his way back to Washington after a 12-day working vacation at his golf club in New Jersey. The bill was named for one of Trump's political critics, the ailing U.S. Senator John McCain of Arizona, but he did not mention McCain's name, even though Trump said the bill is the most significant investment in our military and our war fighters in modern history. Obama's first 3 defense budgets were larger when adjusted for inflation, according to Todd Harrison at Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies. Well, that'll be all for the news this morning. My name is Anthony Jackson. New Day returns shortly after the break.
Television said, happy birthday to you, Barbara Lane Soa. It's your birthday today. And also to you, Richmond Paco Rich Poku. Happy birthday. Okay, so the Daily Graphic this morning starts us off and says, President launches program against deforestation and desertification. Well, that's there. And Ghana Teacher Prize introduced. That's comes with a photo of a Deputy Minister for Education. And President inaugurates first company under the One District, One Factory initiative. And 71 students duped, expected confab, suspected to be fake, visas revoked. Wow. They lose guard there. Okay. Daily Guide. Woyomi refunds 4.6 million Ghana cedis. Nana opens One District, One Factory in Kumasi, and Ibrahim Mahama rattled over 300 million Ghana cedis UT debt. Jifar Tivo joins Volta NDC race. Interesting names coming up for the race. The final newspaper says SEC clears sector, clean sector, and stops some illegal investments, and 5,479 pilgrims to perform Hajj, according to Dr. Ahmed. And Iyoko to probe directors, shareholders of collapsed banks. And government employs 20,000 in afforestation program, president. And Dr. Baumiaka sought for 320 police housing units. I hope that the policemen at the very base get the buildings. The Ghanaian Times says greed, corruption led to collapse of 5 banks. Chairman of the Christian Council, Right Reverend Dr. Agidi, says so. And VIP cuts sought for construction of 45 million Ghana cedis housing project for police. Plus 20,000 jobs for youth. That's a screaming headline on the front page of the Ghanaian Times as President launches the Youth and Afforestation Program. There you have it there. And Kandahar boys took over the Tamale Teaching Hospital yesterday, but the police moved in swiftly. The BNFT says auditors of collapsed banks must be investigated, according to an analyst. And banks in frantic merger talks, they better be in talks before they are consolidated. And 27 defunct SOEs to be deleted from government's book. 7 more to be traced. Okay. The Daily Statement says President commissions car parts factory under 1 district, 1 factory. And government tackles police accommodation. 10,000 unit housing projects underway. And massive afforestation project creates jobs for 20,000. Those are the stories on the front pages of our dailies this morning. Right? Interesting, huh?
The finder talks about Yoko to probe directors' shareholders of 5 of the banks. The story is on page 5, and that's what I was looking at. I mean, good news for me, because the stories being told, for me, is worrying. The bits and pieces of information that we seem to get isn't too exciting. It brings too much uncertainty to the banking sector. So if Yoko is going to probe a whole thing, shareholders, directors, and tell us exactly what happened, and then we can have some certainty back to the sector. My only worry is that UT and Capital Bank went a year ago. The Bank of Ghana said that we have given all the information we needed to Yoko. We do not know whether Yoko has started that information, that investigations, and whatever came out of it has been given to the Attorney General or not. So if UT and Capital Bank's probe has not ended a year after, we do not know what happened, and 5 more are gone, and Yoko says we want to probe directors and shareholders, one can only pray and hope that indeed something happens.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, today will be exactly 1 year since Capital Bank and UT went down, which is why Dr. Otabel decided to speak today, because if you look at the statement, he mentioned that it's exactly 1 year. He said he's been submitted himself to Yoko and the processes thereof to deal with the matters. 1 year is quite a long time, especially when persons who have lost their jobs under Capital Bank and UT Bank still do not know where to find their foot, you know, and a colleague journalist of mine, Fifi Abedu, was out there over the weekend speaking with one of the managers of one of the banks who had become, if you like, a kebab seller because he had to survive. And you see, then the question comes up, how long does it take for us to finish some of these
investigations,
especially when we know that the banks brought documents to say that this is how much we would need to recapitalize our banks and all of that. Bank of Ghana says, well, okay, so they went down. We have a starting point, a base point already. Why do we need to wait for a long time? 1 year is a lot of time. Now we are adding 5 more to it. And you see, within that time, the mudslinging that will go on, the allegations and counter-allegations here and there, makes the situation murkier. And it doesn't solve anything at all. Anything at all. I hope that the Bank of Ghana, Yoko, and all the agencies involved will work speedily this time around to make sure that we don't get to that situation anymore.
Right, and then there's a story that the Times put on page 17, the middle page. Daily Graphic has that same story on the back page. The Kandahar boys, yesterday, they denied
the CEO
involvement. They said that it was a coalition of NPP youth groups from Tamale that undertook that venture to get the CEO out. My concerns are many, one of which is that, I mean, we cannot allow these things to go on.
Yeah.
I heard the police administration in Tamale speak yesterday, and I was very sad. The only thing they could say is that they have seen the video making rounds, and so they are working to see if they can find those involved. The police was suggesting that the CEO had not reported any incident like that to them, so they are unable to perhaps take certain decisions that they have done. But you see, these boys, there was a guy who kept speaking to media houses, and he said that even if the president brings Jesus Christ and he underperforms, they're going to move him out. And I think that's unfortunate because what is the standard of performance according to these boys?
Is it his standard?
That's
the point. According to the public sector standards?
When he was asked that, what is his standard? I mean, he said that, well, people are dying at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, and so it means that the chief executive isn't working. That's what he thinks is standard. So perhaps anybody who is posted there will have to ensure that no one dies at the
You know, yesterday, one of our translators here was making us understand the language that was being spoken. It's a local dialect up north. And what they said in that video was that, can you buy us? You cannot buy us. We are the weed smokers. You cannot buy us.
That's what he said.
That's what he said. Now, a clear indication that these guys were predetermined. They were perhaps intoxicated on something, and they were acting. How, and it comes back to the issue of intelligence gathering. If we have a very formidable intelligence gathering system, we would have been able to identify that, look, today people, because it doesn't take just a day for people to get up and say they are going to take over the Tamale Teaching Hospital. It doesn't take just a day. People plan these things. So it questions our intelligence gathering ability as a people, as a country, as a nation. How come this couldn't get onto the radar of our security experts to have been able to pick the intelligence that these boys are getting ready to go to look, and when they got in there, they asked him to take what he wants to take and get out. They were not ready to listen to anything at all.
They were just asking him to leave.
Anything. Now, imagine that this CEO had to sign a certain document. Somebody was perhaps on life support. He had to sign a certain document or something that will sustain the person's life. The same lives that you say the man is not saving, which is why you have come to push him out. And you just pushed him out without recourse to anything. So if you had to sign a certain financial clearance to go and get gloves or whatever,
the very item that they claim
whatever it is to save lives, you have come and taken him out. How do people take the law into their hands like that? And everybody seems to watch. Everybody is watching.
I mean, if you read a story in the Ghanaian Times, it talks about, these are some of the concerns of the group. They said that the hospital was not a white elephant. They said Dr. Kobila was diverting hospital equipment and machines to his private facility. They also said that he was sacking competent and dedicated doctors and many other professionals from the facility. They indicated the facility lacked equipment, hand gloves, oxygen, and other tools. So you see, the point I'm trying to make is that now, if these are the allegations you're making, is the Ghana Health Service or the Minister of Health aware of this? Okay, that officer, what is his name, Mr. Kobila, or whatever the name is, yes,
Dr. Kobila.
Dr. Kobila, isn't the law to himself? Okay, he works under someone. So if these are the allegations, is the Tamale MC aware? Now the group claims that they have been trying to reach the president, they can't get him. The president representatives is in Tamale. Musa Superior, the chief executive is there. The regional minister is there. The health minister is there. So even if you can't reach the president, have all these places been reached? Now yesterday when they spoke to the MC of Tamale, he said the boys had never told him anything like that. Okay, so for me, it's a sad thing that the president puts someone in office and then someone can go and say, you are incompetent, so remove him.
So take him out.
On what?
I don't know. Mr. President, good morning to you. Mr. Health Minister, good morning to you. And I hope that this doesn't happen. At the beginning of the year and at the inception of the MPP government, this current MPP government, we had a lot of these things happening. I mean, bravado and ruthless show of lawlessness. Is it coming back again? I hope not. Well, but we're told, Senior Bright, that banks are in frantic merger talks, right? Which is a very important thing. I think that, you know, in the wake of the 400 million capital requirement that the Bank of Ghana says that all local banks must be able to achieve, you know, if these banks had gotten into the mergers, perhaps you wouldn't have had
some of them
five of them being consolidated into the consolidated bank. So it's a good thing if they are able to come together and merged, you know, like that. And I on that score, I asked an earlier question that I want to repeat. So there's another sister media house that's questioning the likes of Ibrahim Mahama, questioning the likes of Afenyomarkin King, and asking questions and saying that, well, they have exclusive reports to suggest that these people are complicit, or their assessment of loans or organizations that they belong to might have collapsed the banks. Now, and I'm asking a question again that, look, if there's supposed to be a document that has been authored, the people you are fingering the document say the document is fake. Is it not about time you go to the source of your exclusivity to go and ask them questions regarding the document? If you author a document about me and I say the document is false and somebody else picks it, does the person come to me for clarity, or does it come to the author of the document for clarity? That's a question. So perhaps we are too quick in trying to point fingers and make people look bad.
If you read the guide story on the Mahama issue you're talking about, Ibrahim Mahama, I mean, the officials of the company, the cement factory, have been explaining that the whole idea was that the loan repayment starts with the operations of the company. Now, because UT folded up, then they could not access more of the loan facility to finish the Jata cement factory. Right. As a result, the loan repayment had to hold on. So you see, there are certain things we need to take a look at. Some have suggested that, well, the Jata factory isn't, the money that went into it isn't all that Ibrahim took from UT. Okay. But I guess that we need to take a look at exactly what would have happened if the cement factory was working and if UT wouldn't have gotten some liquidity to operate. For me, I'm saying that, look, Ibrahim is a client. He presented a proposal to UT Bank. Right. And I am saying that it was not just one person who just looked at the proposal and said that, look, go ahead, give him the loan. Right. It was a team, and of course, I want to see that the competent team, but something might have gone wrong that led to the collapse. So let's do proper investigations. Let's find out what happened, and then we can get to a point. But anyway, where we're tagging people, where people are hounding Menso Tabil, Ibrahim Mahama, Afenyomarkin King, suggesting that they've all taken some monies from somewhere, that's led to the I disagree totally. Yeah. I'm a client of a bank. Right. If I take a loan and the loan repayment delays, or due to reason one or two, I'm unable to pay.
There are processes. How do you blame me? Let's take a break. But I'm happy that One District One factory is finally started in the Ashanti region. We're told the president has outdoored the first factory. I hope that many more of those factories will come up. Congratulations to you, Mr. President. And on that note, we'll take a break. We'll be back after this break.
Right, and before we take a look at what's on the pages of the newspapers, let's rant.
Calm has since returned to the Tamale Teaching Hospital after irate youth suspected to be belonging to the governing New Patriotic Party yesterday morning besieged the office of the CEO of the hospital to chase him out of his office on allegations that he's incompetent and he's also not doing their bidding. This is not the first time such is playing out at the Tamale Teaching Hospital on suspicion that such moves are politically induced. It will be recalled that on February 23, 2017, a similar spectacle played out at the same hospital and the same circumstances. This morning on Daily Rant, we want to find out how is it that political vigilantism still festers, even though there's a strong abhorrence from all political device.
I mean, in Yama according to them, Mbabumbi was Solana, Wako, paying office there, Woko to Nifia, I don't know, or Yada on Yad Papa. I've been told Yad Papa in the sense that your umbra or men watch it as a paying bimpo, so already your engagement on Fabra Conda, there are processes involved or they to may use. You cannot just take the law into your own hands by going to an office thinking that in Pocono is not performing or is not doing your bidding, and thereby using illegitimate force to sack the person from office, or you're completely unlawful. And today, I've heard that the police, the regional police commander has taken charge of that place, and people who will be found guilty should be dealt with, because we cannot rule a country on lawlessness. And NPP government, meaning that they are supporting something like this, and they will never support something like this.
Munia, I'm not surprised about what is happening in this type of vigilantism, because the then leader, opposition leader, President Anado, in opposition time, yet say, yet the annual a corner worker for mercenaries that won't be trained them forces. Now, in some of what catch one, Jesus what show woman the waba benema about to solve one problem, but 18 months down the line, even MPP funeral will complain there. I want you chroma, I want you now come now, what academic groups in no one will pay you for the who's this car, yafum. In that DC Abu ya numbers today, what the contract or them my girlfriends na no some I know why my MPP full one vigilantism was sorry there. What my quadma a brow bread. What bread we're gonna heard it. One more quad man pay you for party to tree. You badi na yakaida MPP political party. Why endorse the men of Manzamo Kodo? And Kayon were there. Police station, Sabi, what you be were gonna have there. When you go police station, I will tomorrow in our brassy.
Minister, violent beget violent. Minister. When this thing was going on,
that is why soldiers were
going.
We are not talking about what has happened in the past.
Violent begat violent.
We are not talking about what happened in the past.
There's no way the MPP are going to
condone
this thing. The law will work.
Was voted into power.
And I'm so happy
Ghanaians
that
the
regional police commander is in charge now. And one of which will be, and the law
what we are seeing are far worse of what is happening. What you be police station now? I would want to put one who mean nara akofom. One police station one walk you court moi. When you go court, I want to what case now. What to me in our brassy? These forces can enter into the court, bring out people who are standing trials. Now we walk a quarter. Before we go court the po. Now when you must go court to walk in an escasha. Now we're gonna have them mobile catcher one agent, one some wumpo, what 3 years scammer to the standard radio station and way they find them huge sums of money.
I'm not sure that is the reason why the likes of good of it was completely out of it.
I'm American there. You see, say Obi we dream. Nedwin there on for Ghana is coming from Bobra Papa and Obi Biwata and Broho. By sending a petition to the president that Mr. A, Mr. B, on for Papa no do Ghana man and only here, and the president at our point has the power to fire him. But I'm from Benin, so we say. Trawuna yi paku kesi wa na kon office na aka nyama mfata meji na mbrano because Ghana onye MPP dia Ghana onye NDC dia Ghana ye nyan dia ene ya ja to ka bi memke bi ntu ne ya de tum ya da she oye donku bi won say today MPP they should govern. That doesn't mean that each individual, whether you are affiliated to the MPP or NDC, about to take the law into your hands. So, a leader, and Shankran, or number one failure. You inspire your people. You don't allow them to expire. You inspire them. No, Nanado 2016 election has never inspired any youth of our party to go and do violence. No, Nanado one can demand something to be done.
Train them. Where we going for war? Where we going for war? It's not a democratic ideology.
There are people to protect Nanado security. Nanado security, they don't train because as a flag bearer, on your protocol to handle you. It's not about to come and cause violence. It's not about to come and ask people to leave their office illegal. No, you're not going to accept that.
Does not pass under this administration without hearing this vigilantism. What Kwaduwa and Zamabon. To the extent there, a security coordinator of Ashanti region. Our office, and baby be what people the gun and bra or the shower, okay, in if you no one could not some the other window and answer one slow police station. No one slow quarter, sabi walk a quarter, some chow gun and walk with no, I can't you want for. And it's an embrace one, and it's yet in Brady one. And brother, one walk a court. I no way you will be on fire. No, if I take the law into my hands, I will go to court. They will charge me 1,800, and party financiers will give me money to go and pay.
Go and do it. Say in there, say party financiers be an echo court. But I never pay. Never party people go to ya. And brother,
that is why. Even though court or sentencing coffee na dinya still. Them nyame the man other one okodo.
I don't make a day. I mean no, tell me no. Ayada, dame I made to choose a million. And the party MPP so I don't the winning one. Now you can never read Obinadrin. No party. I don't move so much to my career. To read about that. There's nowhere that will catch you be and a party will catch you be there. Call pay your office on your name to call not from Brescia was a people are motivated in any way to do anything at all the time. And until they won't blow money. They will be allowed in Brescia this police or don't you want it. It's matters like what's Kandahar secretary imagine about the press release about them. These are the why your boys why can't that? It's we encourage a police for the woman was a combiado. No one should show one away the man watch one when you want fight break on
DSP na Kabrus data forces for brain it is on video. It went viral. Ibiala won't be Wagana. Not as today. Nothing has been done to those people who maltreated DSP na Kabrus. Now the money in an party for now with the party nation and crying. Mama son on quite 1 year about the data force fear data 30 fear what you want. It is on record that once a day party finance saving no share the miscarrying in one. In the sub market, it will cast out to them. No way, check up 1 or 2 is cannot more. You see, I don't believe in this equalization. No, my cash. I said that country no end here. It is incumbent on us to make sure that our money is in the year. Why is safe for both of us? But you compare a party pay for because I don't think. I mean, I will name and shame any party paying beer. So we can trust them. Okay, you can go to let the person pay so that next time we accept as a deterrent to the person. That next time we on from the nation. It's I mean, Marka. I'm meeting and Potombo. The paying me. I mean, I will name and shame the person. It was just a verbal something. I will never. I will listen. I will never sit on any platform and said whatever they did was correct. I condemn it. The leader of the party at that time condemned it. But what I'm saying is that petition. Yes, because we thought that the punishment was too harsh. The punishment was too harsh. The punishment was too harsh. Compare.
Thanks so much for joining us back here. Now, time to take a look at what's on the newspapers. And guess you've seen some of them: the Times, the BNFT, the Finder, the Daily Guide, and the Daily Graphic. All of them reporting various stories this morning. My guest to do the talking, Member of Parliament for the Nswam Aduejiri constituency, a member of the NPP, Honorable Frank Anodompre, is here. Good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
Hope you're doing great.
Well, the grace, I'm fine. And you?
I am also fine.
It's always good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for your time with us. And then the former Member of Parliament for the Ablikuma Central constituency is now running for another position. He will tell us. Honorable Theophilus Adetah is also here. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
And which position is that?
I'm running for the regional secretary. Of
okay, Greater Accra Regional Secretary. Right. Wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Let's start the conversation this morning. The president has been in Kumasi and has been engaging in a lot of activities. Because he's wrapped up that tour, but some fallout from his visit there. If you take a look at page 45 of the Daily Graphic, there's a story here. It says that President inaugurates one district, inaugurate first company under one district, one factory. Banks pledged $2.5 billion and then $700 million. Now, the story says that the One District, One Factory initiative has received massive financial support from both local and international financial institutions. A number of local banks have pledged 2.5 billion cedis, while some international banks in the UK, the US, and China have pledged more than $700 million. Towards its implementation. The president disclosed this when he inaugurated the Springs and Bolts Company Limited at Asqua in Kumasi yesterday. Springs and Bolts is the first business entity to be absorbed into the 1D1F initiative. The company, established by the 2014 National Best Farmer, Mr. George Amankwa, is engaged in the manufacture of U-bolts, leaf springs, trailer, suspension parts, bolts and nuts, and can import machinery and equipment duty-free. Now, with its new status as a company under 1D1F initiative, it will, among other benefits, not pay duty on raw materials imported for production and also enjoy a tax holiday for 5 years. And that's a story. So, additionally, we're told that the Ministry of Trade and Industry will attach 2 technical experts to the company to provide free advisory services for the company, while staff under NABCO will be posted to the company. President Akufo-Addo said that a strong industrial sector was key to transforming and modernizing the Ghanaian economy, adding that the 1D1F initiative was an answer to the industrialization drive towards achieving the country's modernization and development. Honorable Don Press, so this is the first one that has been inaugurated, and certainly something we've been waiting for. Commendation for government?
Well, greetings to your many numerous viewers. First of all, they have to find out if indeed that is the first, because if you recall, there was one which at the Kumfi, which was launched. I don't know if that also counts under the auspices.
That's the launch of the construction.
Okay.
But this, we're told that it's been completed.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's good news. Eventually, what are we looking for? We're looking for avenues that would employ our teeming youth to be able to work and contribute their quota to the development of our country. So it is welcoming news. Now, one of the things I want to emphasize is that this One District, One Factory, 1D1F concept is not new. Is really, really not new. If you look at the blueprint that gave birth to this, it's not new. But what is new about this is the sense of dramatic effort that is being put in at this time, and also a paradigm shift in the approach. If you recall, at the dawn of independence, our first president, he also led a number of industries being set up across the country. But the difference here is that here there is clear, a clear move by the state facilitating the needed facilities and the requirement, and then a partnership with the private sector to move it forward. And that is the sustainable way, because if you're taking the cue from what happened in Nkrumah's time, all these states agencies eventually collapsed. A lot of them were, sold out through DIC and the likes. So this partnership between the state and the private sector is the sustainable and the surest way to go. I am particularly happy about that. Not just that. Also, it is clearly the second time the president is going to Ashanti region. And if you look at the figures, the numbers that are being channeled, about 500 million Ghana cedis devoted for roads and infrastructure provision generally. Overheads, underground bridges, roads, and the likes. It's commendable. It's very important. Any politician in our country, from A to Z, from a Sojaman all the way to Zebela, one of our key requirements is roads. And the interface of roads with development is so critical, because most of the foodstuff we produce is produced in the countryside. These foodstuff are produced, and we have bumper harvests. They are produced in big quantities and tonnage, and yet haulage and transport to the cities has always been a problem, and it has also been adding out to cost of living. So these roads are very, very, very important, and I am happy that a certain conscious effort is being made to make sure that we get our roads done. Asante region will set the tone. I know. I want to commend the president for this. I also know that it's not just going to be Asante region. I know the western region, particularly in the scheme of things, the western region is one of the blessed regions and has huge potentials of all the regions, of the 10 regions we have. Western region is huge. But visit the western region, well, notwithstanding all the raw material they contribute, the cocoa and the likes, the road network in the western region is so bad. So western region is also in contention, and then the central region, eastern region, and the like. So it's good news, and all of us will have to comment.
Right.
And whatever we can do in our small way to ensure that it see the light of day, we all have to contribute our quota.
Let me quickly ask you this. Yesterday, a colleague of yours from Parliament was suggesting that the various roads that were mentioned, the Kumasi Asphalt Relay, the shortcutting that the president did, he was suggesting that there are no contracts like that, there are no projects like that, and that there are only proposals that is even yet to be approved. You also from Parliament, do you know anything like that?
You see, whatever, right, I am not a pessimist. I will want to think positive. Whatever it is, be it as it may, that it is just a proposal. Is it not a commendable proposal?
It is, but his worry is that why would the president cut the short when it is just a proposal? And that several projects, we see short-cutting and we don't get them done.
Well, we are all in this country. Whether this is going to be done or not, all of us.
So you agree there are no contracts?
No, I don't agree to that. I don't agree to that.
There are contracts.
There are contracts, but I cannot give you details of all these contracts. From where I see, if any member of Parliament wants to say that he is on top or he is more or less an authority when it comes to contract details, it is not all these contracts that come to Parliament. In fact, to be told, and I'm happy my senior colleague is here. It's not all these contracts that come to Parliament. There are a number of them that comes. And then the details of it are sometimes are left at the ministry. So I don't know the basis upon which my colleague has said that. But I want to take it from a very positive angle. That is, our road network, which has been a challenge in the scheme of things in our development effort, is beginning to get the needed attention. And they're doing the needful. And all of us need to support it. Because the importance of roads cannot be overemphasized. All of us know about it. Visit all the countrysides, even roads that we are claimed to have done well. The quality of it is suspect. So all of us need to contribute, and whatever we can do to ensure that we get our roads done, we all need to support. Not just that, there are some good things happening. If you look at, I think one of the dailies, $45 million housing project has been commissioned for our security agencies. These are commendable things. The previous government also started some things. If you recall, President Kufuor's time, affordable housing became a household name. As we speak, a number of them were left to rot in the bush. I can mention Kofodia, I can mention parts of Tamale. Contracts have been renewed, MOUs have been amended, and work is being done.
All right.
But I also see that there's a lot more that we have to do. But definitely the government is doing well, and all of us need to support the government and ensure that ultimately what we are all desirous of achieving, we indeed achieve it.
Okay, I'm grateful. So the president 1D1F, we're told the first one has been inaugurated.
Yeah, thank you, Bright. First of all, let me say good morning to your viewers. And also let me say good morning to all my constituency executives within the region. I want to use this opportunity to thank them for the support that they've given me over this brief period. Bright, I don't know whether what the newspaper is reporting, maybe the headline is taking away the real meat in the soup. Right, I'm saying so because government's assurances in terms of the 1D, 1F was to the fact that they were going to support private initiatives, new startups in terms of facilities that will help create employment for this country. Bright, I believe that you've read the story. This is not a new venture that has been set up. This is an already existing entity or factory that is actually exporting some of its resources to neighboring countries. What the government has sought to do is to come to their aid through assistance. And I don't know whether government is now shifting its focus. My colleague rightly said that he thought the first saw cutting was the Ekunfi factory that the government promised to put up.
Right.
Currently, as we speak now, what we know is that pillars have been raised. But in terms of a factory that has been fully built, it has not gotten to that stage. So my question is government shifting its focus now because it's realized that he cannot initiate new factories within the country, and therefore is now going to factories that are already operating and want to assist? They should come clear on that matter, because in this case, you realize that the factory that is being talked about is not a new creation. This is an already existing factory that the president has gone to, in a way, partner. So for me, the government needs to come clear. The issue of road networks. Yes, road networks are very necessary, but you see, we should do what is needed first. Contractors have worked for this country. In fact, private contractors have put in their resources. They've borrowed resources from banks to assist in the infrastructural development of this country. Right, as I talk to you now, contractors who have worked from 2016 up to today have not been paid. It's getting to 2 years. And for the average local contractor, look at the difficulty that that contractor is going through. And I believe His Excellency the President, if this morning he's listening to me, please, 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 let us support our contractors so that they can offer efficient and very, very quality road networks for us. For me, I've always said that, look, contractors should not work, and then at the end of the day, when it comes to their payment, it has to take so much long for the monies that they have invested, not even what government has given them, but the resources that they themselves have gone to the banks to borrow. It takes 2 years, 3 years before those monies are being paid. And I ask myself, if for 2 years, these contractors are not being paid, what is the justification in awarding more contracts? And for me, I don't know the sort of planning we are putting up as a country, that we owe so much, we are not ready to pay, and then we decide that new projects should also be added to the system. I'm appealing to His Excellency the President. Yes, we need the road networks, but then those who have worked over the period, please ensure that these people are paid so that they will also be relieved. You see, you don't go in for a loan and then at the end of the day, the loan becomes what? Compounding in terms of interest. Then you render the contractor bankrupt. So what have we achieved as a nation? You realize that even some of these banks that went into liquidation, they had challenges with local contractors that they have supported because government has not paid. So I'm appealing to His Excellency the President that please, 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 let us look for resources, pay the already work contracts so that these contractors will be relieved. But on the issue of the 1D, 1F, as much as every Ghanaian is looking for jobs to be created, the government has shifted its focus. Let us know that we can no longer set up new projects, and therefore we are going in support already existing factories. Then there will be the resources. Yes, the pledges are very important, but we want the resources to be made available so that companies can benefit from the 1D, 1F project.
If you read the story, it is, okay. If you read the story, it is quite clear. It says that the CEO, Mr. Mankwa, said until the intervention of government, the company was unable to meet even 40% of orders from its clients. Says with a stimulus package through a car bank facility, he said it will increase employment to about 120 from 65. So suggesting that indeed the company was already operating.
That's right. You see, I entirely agree with my colleague, but I must straighten up things a bit. You see, it's not like government is confused about what to do. We are very clear in our mind when it comes to this 1D, 1F. But you don't say that you are pursuing a certain path of partnering a private entity to set up factories in the district. And hence, when you find a potential that has an overarching possibility of creating jobs, you say that because you are pursuing a certain path, you are going to rigidly get stuck into that alley and say that you're not going to help. No, what he said is true. The company is not new.
All right.
But a number of functions has been added to what they are doing already, which was not part of its, traditional function.
So it's not a shift of focus.
It is not. It is not at all. Now, for instance, I can give you a typical example of what is happening in my area. Aztec is now operating under the name Noda Foods. Aztec originally, they were the first local company that would be producing bottled water. Now, they are operating under the name Noda Foods. It is still owned by a private entity, and they are exporting to neighboring Cote d'Ivoire. It's coming under 1D, 1F. And they are getting support from Exim Bank. They are getting $1 million from Exim Bank. Are we going to say that because government didn't go from day one to set it up, it doesn't qualify to fall under 1D, 1F? We need to be a bit more, with the greatest of respect, broaden our horizon in terms of our appreciation of what this 1D, 1F is all about.
This
yes, I agree. Maybe the communication, we may have to step up communications. Yes, I agree. But it doesn't mean that we have to come and say that, oh, okay, now we have to shift our focus because we realize that we cannot set up factories in all the district. If you say that, then I get a certain level of malice associated with it. No, what we are doing is good, and I congratulate government because you see, Bright, the admirable part is that we just didn't go the way President Nkrumah went. President Nkrumah did very well, but we didn't go that way. Now, business plans are being edited. We go through the blueprints of the concept of every proposal that is coming up. That is why, similarly, on the face value of it, the 1D, 1F seem to have delayed. Because we cannot just put out money to a proposal that is not sustainable, a proposal that is not going to yield any good result ultimately. So government, against all the temptations that, okay, you promised 1D, 1F, government is still disciplined and ensuring that we get value for money and we are not putting monies at wrong places. I think that is commendable. Now, on the contractors, I agree with him that those who have done their jobs, gone for facilities, they should be paid. I also know, I can tell you on authority, that's at the last check I did at my colleague Honorable Kabu's office. A number of contractors are being paid. Okay, yes, there are still a number of them that payment remains that have not been fulfilled. So we urge government to go ahead and do it. But government is already paying a lot more contracts that were awarded at my colleagues their time.
Okay.
Then, guys, you see, there was a suggestion that we should also pass a law to regulate when government should pay contractors. The law is a bit mute when payment has to be done, and then the contractors cannot enforce any regulation to put government on it to ensure that what is due them is being paid. So maybe we have to up the discussion a bit, and then as our body politics also move forward, when you are exiting administration, people should also be a bit wary how they award contracts. What he's saying is true. There are genuine cases that people need to be paid. There are also issues with some of the contracts that were awarded. So that is how come the issue about auditing has to come in and say that, well, some of the contracts we needed to audit them because there were issues with some contracts.
It's not taking too long to finish the auditing.
has been finished. I told you.
Okay, so those who have not been paid, there's a reason.
Yes, there is a reason. And some of them contracts which were awarded about 2 years ago, some are also being paid.
Okay.
You see. Right.
Okay, quickly wrap up. Just 1 minute, then let's talk about Dr. Mensa Otabio's issue and then Mr. Ibrahim Mohammed's issue.
The truth of the matter is that government owns contractors. These are not contractors who have done ghost jobs. These are contractors who have fully executed government projects, which the government has nothing contrary to the projects that they've executed. The problem or the challenge now is the raising of funds to pay those projects. And I'm saying that let us settle the indebtedness to these contractors so that we can begin with what? New contracts. But we don't pay those contracts, and then we are also accumulating new debts in terms of awarding new contracts.
Okay.
It doesn't sound well.
All right. I'll quickly come back to you. Let's take a look at this story. Daily Guide, Ibrahim Mohammed rattled the 300 million UT debt. He's been explaining issues here on the Daily Guide. The company Jata Cement lawyers have suggested that it was agreed that UT Bank will finance the cement factory till it becomes operational, but this unfortunately could not happen due to the revocation of its license last year. At the time the bank's license was revoked, the records will show that the project was about 80% complete. Now we're told that due to the revocation of the license of UT Bank, the company had to seek other sources to finance the project. And so the loan was to be repaid when the company starts operations. Now, if you take a look at Dr. Mensa Otabio's statement this morning, we'll tie the two. It says that he's observed with concern the ongoing media discussions regarding developments in the banking sector, and my role, either directly or indirectly. I accepted to be the board chair of Capital Bank in a bid to help strengthen a promising Ghanaian enterprise that had potential but also challenges. I was excited about the prospect of a young man from a disadvantaged background who was daring to create opportunities and employment. My position was a non-executive role. I was therefore not involved in the day-to-day management operations of the bank. In the course of time, some decisions were turned out well, while some did not turn out as well as had been anticipated. As far as I can tell, everything was done with the best of intentions and the interests of various stakeholders. It goes on and on and on. The conclusion is that, meanwhile, a believer in the rule of law, I will continue to cooperate with the mandated institutions of state as they complete the investigations. I'm confident that in the process, the national interests and the rights of all parties involved will be protected. So that's the statement from Dr. Mensa Otabile, and I'm sure you are aware of what's happening. Honorable Tetecha, let me start this conversation with you. Mr. Ibrahim Mohammed has been explaining that the loan repayment was tacked to the beginning of the operations of Jata Cement Factory. And so the talk about him not paying back the loan isn't legitimate, and that could not have caused the collapse of UT Bank. Pastor Mensa Otabile is suggesting that his role was only a non-executive position, and so he could not have been involved in decisions that led to the collapse of the bank.
Yeah, Bright, thank you very much. First of all, let me commend Dr. Mensa Otabile for coming out with this press release. If you've watched or seen some of the messages on social media, people have different views about what is happening, especially with the reports that came out of the UT Bank, Capital Bank saga. I believe the press release has brought out certain issues. Yes, as a board member, you don't have the direct oversight on what the institution does. But then the decision of the board directly or indirectly affects the company in which you have that
that role. It says a non-executive role.
Yes, whether non-executive or executive, you are the board chair. And within the press release, he has also acknowledged that some of the decisions that they took might have gone well, others have not gone well. Yeah. it tells you that he's taking some form of responsibility. But above all that, he stated that he's submitted himself to Yoko, which I think is the right thing to do. And as a country, we need to exercise a little bit of restraint to ensure that Yoko does its job thoroughly. And at the end of the day, if people are found culpable, then whatever decisions that has to be taken, those decisions will be taken. But it shouldn't be that as a country, we will prejudge or find people guilty whilst the institutions that have been mandated have not had a conclusion on the said officials. So it is good that he's come out with that press statement. But for me, there is some form of admission of right things and wrong things that have been done. And that alone tells you that people are ready to submit themselves for any further investigations. And then on the issue of Mr. Ibrahim Mahama, I believe that the public has taken the issue out of context. Yes, rightly, if I'm a businessman and I want to initiate a business, you may decide to use your own resources if you have. If you don't have your own resources, you resort to the bank for a loan. And with the sort of proposals that you bring forward, the bank will either accept or reject your proposal. Now, for the bank to accept its proposal with the terms that were spelled out, nobody can tell the good people of this country that Mr. Ibrahim Mahama did something wrong, in the sense that within the agreement, it was agreed that the company will be set up, and then when production starts, the company will begin to repay the loans that it has contracted. And we've been told that at the time the company was 80% completed, UT Bank became liquidated. And as a result, the agreement couldn't be continued. And the current owners of GCB are now chasing the Jata company for their money. I don't think the company has done anything wrong. But this is a case that I'm appealing to His Excellency the President, that as we've now shifted our focus in terms of how to support companies to grow, to increase employment. Jata company, and we all know the cement industry, the role it is playing in this country. I would therefore urge His Excellency the President that a company that is 80% completed, this is the time that if there are resources to support companies to grow, the government can come in and support the company with the 20%, so that this cement factory, an indigenous one of course, that is producing here, I think this company can even employ more than 5,000 Ghanaians if you look at the value chain.
That's right.
Exactly.
Retailers.
Exactly. So I'm urging His Excellency the President, this is a very good initiative that the 1D, 1F has to go to their head to ensure that that company is completed so that they can repay back the loan they've contracted.
I'm grateful. Honorable Don Press, so these are the two issues.
Yes, I mean, first of all, I know on authority that the President will support any local company that has the acumen and the necessary wherewithal to move forward. That fact has to be put out clearly. I know that there were people who had gone to His Excellency the President to complain about Zoom Lion, our own Zoom Lion. The President said that he is a Ghanaian. If we will not support our own, who else are we going to support? Today, Zoom Lion is working and is alive and working. It's not collapsed against all the predictions that people have come up with. Now, but you see, one of the things about these banks that I feel a bit worried about is that, let's not pretend, the writings has always been on the wall. Vice President Dr. Bawumia had predicted it about 5 years back. There were issues with our banks. Okay? Now, it brings in wake what President Obama had come to tell us. That we need strong institutions in our country to develop. Not strong men, strong institutions. Look, when the likes of, we heard about Piram, we heard about a certain DKM on the likes, people's funds have just gone down the drain. Meanwhile, we have institutions mandated by law, the BOG, to play a certain role. So all these while, what was happening at the Bank of Ghana? All these while, for the past 6 years, what was indeed happening at the Bank of Ghana? The Bank of Ghana, the BOG, cannot be absolved of this. They cannot be absolved of blame because they have a supervisory role to play. And when you sit and all these banks, take the law into their hands and they feed fat on the ordinary Ghanaian. Listen, as we speak, government has to push in as much as over 2 billion Ghana cedis to shore them up and to ensure that jobs, don't get collapsed unnecessarily. Now, on Pastor Mensah Otabil, I agree with my colleague that indeed it's good he came out. But you see, I haven't read the entirety of his statement. There are roles to be played by management of every company, and there are also roles to be played by the board. My cursory assessment, even though barring investigation, we are waiting for a thorough investigation to this whole brouhaha. But my cursory view is that a board chairman cannot absolve himself, because he couldn't have granted that loan, leaving out the grossing over the board. Unless, of course, the argument is that the management have gone to grant all these loans without seeking the blessings of the board. So there is more to the story. And I just hope that we'll be able to do the investigation. And here, all of it, and it's not because I'm part of MPP, we need to commend government for the boldness. Because, take it or leave it, some jobs will be lost. When these banks have been consolidated, eventually, we've tried to control, but there's some jobs will be lost. Which government would have had the confidence to do what this government is doing? So we need to commend government. We are doing the right thing. Notwithstanding all the politicking and all people will say that jobs are going to be lost and the likes.
But that's a fact.
Yes, I agree that
so it is not political. It's a fact.
No, but we also need to comment. Right, we need to comment the board.
Exactly, but if you say jobs will be lost, people say it's politicking. It's a bit unfair.
People take
because certainly jobs will be lost.
Right, some take it out of context.
Okay, then
can we also let's look at let's ask ourselves, if we had not done the needful, we had not consolidated these banks, what would have happened? The 2 billion that government is being pushed, it is you and I. our taxes that are going to be collected to shore up these banks. So eventually, it is the people who are going to pay for some negligence that could have been avoided. We were in this country, we sat down for DKM to feed fat on ordinary Ghanaians, only for a new government to come and they say that the government will have to ensure that payment is made. So I'm saying that the Bank of Ghana, even in the scheme of things that we want to investigate, the investigation needs to be thorough. Everybody, all institutions involved, not just the banks that have been collapsed. The Bank of Ghana itself will have to be investigated. Who were at the helm of affairs when all these loans and all these licenses were given? It's a very broad thing, and I hope that, because this is more than a coup d'etat, what has happened to our financial institutions and our financial sector as a country, it is more than a military man waking the whole country at dawn with the barrel of the gun. It is more than the coup d'etat. Today, we are in agreement to go for a 2 billion Chinese Sino Hydro to come and up and improve our infrastructure needs. Meanwhile, this same amount we have spent close to 2 billion, and it could have been avoided. So, all put in context, I just hope that we are not going to talk about this. It will be in the media, and typical of us, in a few months it goes down the line and then we forget about it. We won't go to sleep. We must ensure. And if you talk to the average guy, the way people are angry about this matter, you have no idea.
What about the suggestion that, for instance, in the case of Mr. Ibrahim Mohammed's issue, if a company is 20% complete and the loan contracted was based on the fact that when operations start, then the repayment begins. So government should come in to help fix that company for it to start operations and pay back the loan. Is it something prudent?
You see, I don't. My colleague made a very emotional appeal. And this is the second appeal he made. The first one was the contractors. This one, so he made it. And I'm saying that, we have to weigh the pros and cons. And there's opportunity cost in there. Right. If it is something what we are going to lose is huge, then we will have to look at it. But I don't want us to personalize this matter. because it is the president's brother, we have to go for the former president's brother, we have to go. If he deserves a loan, why not? He should be given. Right. But I'm unable to draw judgment because I don't have the full facts. And I know that it is the law court that would determine, indeed, if there were contract or not, or the loans that were contracted, Mr. Ibrahim Mahama has done something wrong or not. But you see, from where I sit as an ordinary Ghanaian, the accessibilities that Ibrahim Mahama had, I didn't have that. So we also need to be careful. If your brother is a president and then you tend to take undue advantage, I'm not saying that is the situation here, you tend to take an undue advantage, the law will catch up with you.
You're not suggesting
the stories I have heard.
People around politicians should not engage in business.
No, the stories I have heard, I mean, genuine business, why not? But stories I have heard, and I'm saying I stand for correction. If indeed it is true that some loans that were given out were bad loans, it will come to hurt our brother. So it doesn't matter your affinity to people of influence in government. When you have tread, you need to tread with caution. And if there is any blame at all, we cannot put it on Ibrahim Mahama alone. Those who were at the banks, at the helm of affairs, did they know that the loans that were given out were bad loans, and they ensured that these loans were given? So the court will determine.
Right.
Okay. The court indeed will determine.
Quickly. The truth of the matter is that Ibrahim Mahama cannot be blamed in this case. This is not a public facility. This is a private financial institution. And you can't say because of the influence of his brother that led to him being granted the loan. It can never be possible. Okay. So let the facts remain that this is an astute business person who wants to generate employment for the youth of this country, has gone into a venture that he has actually got into 80% of the venture. It tells you that, yes, this is somebody who is committed to help the good people of this country get employment or jobs to do. And my last appeal is for government to actually help with the 20%, so that
the official takeover bank GCB should also be appealed to.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Of course, GCB is the one that took over capital. So, I mean, you want to collect your money, help finish the project once the project is complete. We're having told that UT was going to set up a bank on the premises of Jata Cement to be collecting daily revenue. I have just about a few minutes to wrap up. Kandahar issue in Tamale. Why, Honorable Domprey, why are we unable to stop these people from misbehaving?
Well, for some time now, I think it's been quiet. I mean, let's be fair to the issues. For some time now, it's been very quiet about these disturbances. I also know, before I walked into the studio, I had done some checks in Tamale and the like, just to be on top of the situation. We don't know for certainty.
MPP youth.
I mean, they are MPP youth. I mean, the previous ones that had happened, I had condemned it. And let's put on record that people had gone to court. Even where it was proving that they were MPP youth or MPP sympathizers or whatever description you give to it, some have been hauled before courts and have been sentenced. Some have been sentenced with various degrees. Yes, they've been convicted. So it's unfortunate that this is happening. I just hope that, I'm just a bit alarmed that security agencies were unable to pick up, these signals before they happened. That is where I want to look at it. We also don't have to feed into the coloration of crime.
Right.
Because if crime is committed by whichever political party, it's crime. And building a country and moving forward, we have to have the confidence and say that, notwithstanding your political coloration, if you commit crime, the law should deal with you.
Okay.
So I just hope that investigations will be conducted and they will come to the bottom of this matter. But for this one, people should leave the MPP out of it.
Okay.
I beg one. This one, they should leave us out.
I'm wrapping up.
Because there's no evidence to that.
Be brief about it.
Well, this is what the Daily Graphic, authoritative Daily Graphic is reporting that these Kandahar boys affiliated with the MPP. So if my colleague wants to deny, then they have to send in a rejoinder that this is not the actual fact. But as it is before us, it is that said group that is being alleged to be involved in this mayhem. But you see,
quickly,
the question I want to ask, what business has party supporters got to do with procurement in an entity? They have no business. If procurement within an entity is going wrong, it is up to the security agencies to act. Okay? Because if you look at the report that we are being told, they are asking for the head of this gentleman because they believe he's not awarding contracts to them. What is this? People should know that the procurement process in this country does not favor political parties.
It doesn't allow
there are rules and regulations. If you are qualified, if you tender and you are qualified to be awarded contracts, you will be awarded. Okay. So when I hear people saying that the contracts are not being awarded to our party members, and as a result, we have to change out a CEO.
But is this a possible
what sort of rule of law or governance are we playing as a country?
But it's possible
let
that
us
bad people
make
could
our
hide
party
behind
people
this.
understand
Bad people
that the procurement law does not favor political parties.
I am so grateful. Honorable Frank Anodompre is Member of Parliament for Inswam Advocary. He's a member of the NPP. Honorable Chair, former MP, Ablekuma Central, now running to lead the NDC in the Greater Accra region as Secretary. Grateful for your time once more.
Thank you.
Stay with us. Sports is up next.
Welcome back. Let's talk about issues regarding the 2018 Hajj pilgrimage. I've been joined by Dr. Alhaji Siddiq Abubakar. He is the Director of Hajj Communication. Doc, welcome. Assalam.
Walaikum assalam.
How's everything going on at the Hajj office? Is it smooth?
Well, it is very smooth. Of course, you may have some few hitches here and there, but generally speaking, it's been so good.
The delays and disappointments, the near chaos, or if you like, the chaos that have come up, doesn't necessarily respond to the smoothness that you tend to want us to pick.
Well, I know that will be your next question, because the media, especially one particular story, gave that headline, and I thought that was quite misleading. If you look at that very story, it talked about chaotic situation.
Right.
But unfortunately, the picture did not show any chaos. The picture actually showed orderliness.
Right.
And so I was wondering how that came about. Now, secondly, again, of course, there was no timeline, so you cannot, there was no bar line, so you cannot talk about the person who wrote it. Now, if you look at that particular story, and then you look at the time that it was reported. Of course, filing may mean covering a story today and filing it in a week or two. There are some inconsistencies there. That is just a casual.
Are you dismissing those claims?
No, I'm not dismissing. I'm just trying to point out the journalistic, flaws here.
Right, but let's look at the reality on the ground. The story may have its flaws, as you're pointing out.
Exactly.
But what is on the ground?
On the ground is this. What actually did happen was that the aircraft was ready to come.
Okay.
Now, there are certain things that you have control over.
Right.
And there are others that you do not have control over.
Absolutely.
But when they happen, you have to manage it.
Right.
We were informed that the captain of that particular, craft suddenly fell ill.
Okay.
Now, when that happens, you need somebody else to take over.
Right.
We were also told that aside that, there was also a problem of weather.
Okay.
A plane can only, in fact, we report from here to Saudi Arabia almost every 6 hours.
Right.
By our control tower.
Okay.
Right. So there were all sorts of variables that actually constituted,
Absolutely.
came up with that.
Absolutely.
Now, at the end of the day, that delay, which is used as which is normally used with a negative connotation, was just retiming.
Retiming.
Exactly.
Okay.
And when you retime, of course, you are going to have a period where people will have to wait a little while. Now they were informed. In fact, I was part of the group that went and informed them about the situation.
How did they take this information?
Oh, of course, before the information, there was anxiety.
Okay.
But when they had the information, and what we also did, these days technology has simplified things. You can have a particular, application on your phone, and it tracks the craft whenever it starts, up to the point of destination. So we showed them a picture of a craft coming. Okay. And they were excited about it.
They were excited about it.
About it.
Oh, okay, so
yes.
so the complaints about you choosing a craft that has a smaller capacity as opposed to a bigger one, and making a phone call to Saudi Arabia to reduce the quota from some 6,000 and excess to 5,500. What do you say to those allegations?
Again, that was misinformation. Misinformation in the sense that quotas are discussed.
Okay.
Saudi Arabia fixes quotas for all nations.
Okay.
Because they know the facilities that they have. And out of the facilities that they have, they determine how many pilgrims should enter the country from each country.
So what did you discuss with Saudi Arabia?
So when we went to discuss with them, they had their quota. But then you needed to discuss.
What did you agree with them?
That we agreed based upon our own preparations before we went there. Last year, we went with 6,200.
Okay.
Now that 6,200 was because of a leftover of 432 pilgrims who earlier on had paid, but could not perform their Hajj. In other words, they were not airlifted.
So there was a carry forward.
There was a carry forward,
which brought the number finally to what?
To 6,200.
6,200.
So if you look, if you track it backwards, you realize that the actual quota should be around 5,500 thereabout.
Right.
So in trying as much as possible to ensure that you don't get into losses, where do you take it from? We considered 5,500, but we went beyond the 5,500 to about 5,700. And that was what we discussed.
Is the Hajj board incompetent to perform its duty?
Unfortunately, when I read the story again, that's so loosely.
Are you incompetent?
Well, that is what they are saying.
Okay.
But frankly speaking,
are you being complicit, allowing people who can pay more, market women and other business people to take the place of people who are, for example, booked their flights ahead?
Again, that is misinformation.
That never has happened.
It never happened, and also lying to the public.
Right.
Let me explain that to you. When the Hajj season opens, you are expected to pay through two channels. One, you either pay directly into the Hajj board account, or you pay through an agent.
Right.
Now, if you pay into the bank accounts to Stanbic, which of course was our bank, what happens is they do not look at your face. They cannot even tell whether you are rich or poor. They cannot tell whether you are a politician or not. They receive the money.
So there was no protocol list?
There was, that is a different issue. See, when people are reporting, they box up issues without understanding of how the operations are handled.
Alhaji,
and that is the reason
I'd like to thank you very much. Alhaji Sadiq Abubakar is the Director of Communications at the Hajj Board. Alhaji, thank you very much for coming. I wish you all the best. We'll take a break. When we return, Yao Ofosulabi Bidadabi has all the sports action here on TV3 New Day. Welcome. Happy birthday to you, Barbara Soa, wife of Franklin Soa of the Graphic Communications Group Limited. But let's talk to Dr. Tony Adu. My colleague Winston Amor had a conversation with him. We're focusing on the double-track system and the free SHS policy of the New Patriotic Party. Take a listen to this conversation.
Hello, welcome, and thank you very much for joining us. And welcome to this special interview with former Deputy Defense Minister, former Head of Monitoring and Evaluation at the presidency during the reign of Professor Mills, and former Ghana's ambassador to the Netherlands. My guest is Dr. Tony Adu. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr.
How do you do?
How do you do, too? Great. So, the last time we were with you, you talked about how you felt the NPP was very, very, bold in taking decisions and getting policies, unlike the NDC. So let's look at some of the policies of the NPP and how well they're doing. Let's start off with the free SHS. What's your assessment of it?
Well, first of all, let me deal with this issue of the bold or the boldness of the MPP vis-a-vis the often timidity of the NDC relative to the pursuit of the relevant party ideology and the fulfillment of the elements of that ideology. Sure. Whereas the MPP has been bold enough to pursue policies that suit its conservative, elitist orientation, the NDC has not been able to articulate, much less propagate, policies that serve the interests of its constituencies. So if you have noticed, the pattern of elections over the past years have been shifting from the time when Jerry Rawlings could score 57, 58% to the point at which it was neck and neck. And then the last elections, the MPP stretched. It means the natural constituency of the NDC has more or less evaporated or has been hijacked by the NPP.
Okay.
And to that extent, it's like Margaret Thatcher during her reign. Certain populist policies were pursued that attracted normal Labour Party votes.
So are you saying the NPP is, engaged in
populism?
Populism?
Yes.
Which used to be the NDC's approach?
No. The NDC, as I said, during Rawlings' time, not only talked, but implemented policies to the benefit of the rural areas and so on and so forth.
Isn't it the same thing that the NPP is doing now?
Exactly, but the NPP is doing it in, excuse me to say, a very shoddy manner. The policies are not thought through. You take into account this school feeding program. If it had not been a populist mantra, the MPP would have thought through the implications of the policy.
As in the free SHS?
The free SHS.
Okay.
Because how can you implement a policy against the philosophical orientation of the policy itself?
How is it against the philosophical orientation?
The philosophical orientation is that there are a greater population of persons who do not get the opportunity to go to secondary school because their family background or socioeconomic circumstances of their parents do not allow them to pursue secondary education. In which case, you want to bring on board these underprivileged pupils. Why do you implement a universal policy without means testing?
Well, they say the Constitution says
exactly.
SHS should be free, so that's what they've done.
Yes, but you do it on the basis of what the Constitution also said, that free SHS should be progressive.
They say the NDC started something and they believe it was time for them to move it up.
Yes.
Yes, so...
You move it up to where? To the point at
Universal.
which, one, you haven't considered the cost, the costs that will be incumbent upon the government and therefore upon the citizenry. And don't forget that there is nothing called free SHS.
Why isn't there anything?
Because we are paying.
You're paying taxes, but you don't get to pay fees.
We are paying.
But initially, you were paying fees.
But you are still paying.
How?
Recently, they've widened the tax net.
Yes.
The widening of that tax net could have gone to other social welfare measures that the country needs. If the policy has been implemented in a manner that took into account means testing, don't forget, it's not the pupil who pays the fees.
Yes.
It's the parents. And there are many parents who have the means of sponsoring their wards' education. So why the universality of free secondary school?
The argument is
for everybody.
The Constitution says make it progressively free for all. Under the NDC administration, there was an attempt of making it progressively free, with government absorbing some of the fee components. The NPP says we are moving it further to fulfill the constitutional provision.
But you forget that the NDC's concept of progressive free education included the need to create the necessary infrastructure. Right now, the MPP government on Nana Akufo-Addo has realized that apart from the cost, the infrastructure is not adequate enough to accommodate the increased pupil intake, the inevitable huge number of pupils who will enter. So it brings out this idea of double streaming.
You support it?
I think it's a very weird idea.
Why is it weird?
Weird in the sense that it puts pressure on those who are going to teach these children. Is there a break where one batch will do, I don't even know the timelines, but I think one batch will do a semester,
yes,
and immediately go on vacation and another come over? Who are the, is it the same teachers?
No, different teachers.
Why?
So every batch has its own teachers.
Oh my God, why?
What's wrong with it? They say that's the way to go, so the teachers can also have time to rest.
Oh, but you need continuity. You need complementarity.
So each track has its set of teachers. So if it's
but
track 1, it has a set of teachers. Track 2 has a set of teachers.
Sit the same examinations.
Set by their teachers.
Set by their teachers.
In the interim, until they go for the final examination.
But then would teacher A teaching class A or stream 1 set questions for that particular stream, and teacher B set for his students?
Okay.
Or are they going to take the same paper?
Well, that I do not know. They might come together and take the same paper. But what would you have done differently in other circumstances, Dr. Tony-Edu?
What I would have done is that the policy should have taken into account the need to means test.
The Deputy Minister of Education says it's difficult to means test in Ghana.
Why should it be difficult to means test? People who send their children to secondary school.
It says you have a problem with data in this country.
Yes. So there is a starting point to create a D-base. A data bank is what Ghana has been missing, and every administration is constrained because there is no national data bank. But you have to start from somewhere. When parents send their children to secondary school, their particulars are there.
Okay. So
the job they do are there.
Dr. Tony-Edu, right now we're faced with a challenge. The challenge is that we're looking at, students go into our secondary schools. We're practicing a free SHS. How do you propose we go about it? Because for now, it's free SHS, and the president says there's no turning back.
Of course, you can't turn back.
You can't turn back?
You can't turn back, because if you turn back, this stop-go kind of thing is no good for the students in our educational system. That's why I said, from the outset, before the implementation, you should have thought about all these implications.
So, in effect, what you're saying is that...
Statistically, you can project.
Yeah, so what you're saying that, in effect, where we've reached, we just would have to continue with free SHS as it's been started.
It's not too late to reintroduce means testing.
But you say they can't stop it. So it means they would have to continue.
There are parents who can afford. Let them pay for their children's school fees, so that the spirit of the Constitution, and the spirit is not only the universality, it's also the egalitarian element, equality of opportunity. That is the essence. So children whose parents are not economically endowed should be the targets of the policy, so that you bring these children at least up to a level that gives them the chance to compete with the affluent children. At least they all get secondary education.
Now that you say the double track system is weird.
Well, it will impose psychological pressure on teachers.
On teachers?
Yes. And apart from that, education in this country is already costly. It's taking a huge amount from the budget. So you are going to increase the teacher intake. The teaching population will have to double.
And it creates jobs, somebody would say.
Well, digging the street and covering it creates jobs. It's happened before. Post-war Europe, people were just made to go and dig trenches and cover it up again.
These are 8,000 teachers who will be employed to go and teach.
Yes, okay.
And the government says the way of creating jobs. So teachers are going to get jobs. I mean, those Ghanaians who want to teach would get jobs. And government says we're going to ensure that we have more contact hours for these children. 7:30 to 3:30 p.m., contact hours. Government says it is the best for the children.
It imposes pressure on the national coffers as well, because you could have saved the resources for other social intervention programs. Don't forget that these children coming from underprivileged homes also live in environments that do not come up to scratch. They require governmental support. So here again, the egalitarian element is lost.
So we should go back?
No. You don't scratch this free SHS, but means test, I think.
Those who can pay should be made to pay?
Yes, they should.
What if they say they also would want to enjoy what everybody's enjoying?
Well, whatever it is the government policy. If the government says you have the money to import a car with 3-liter engine, so you pay more, it's the same thing. It's an obligation on the part or a class or community of the society who have the means.
I will bring you some more conversation on this particular one later on. Let's take a break. When we return, there's an exclusive interview with Mrs. Sule Muntari. We'll tell you more about that after this break. Vodafone has something special for you. And part of their 10th anniversary, they're talking about the 10 pesos this thing. Well, so you can get 10 pesos for your data or for calls, and you can share with family and friends. It's more like they're kicking me. This thing is a 10 this thing. If you get it, you know it. It's don't call me. And all of it is right here on Vodafone. The future is exciting. Are you ready? But let's talk about the award-winning model and wife of the international footballer Sule Alin Mutari. Her name, some mention it Minay, but with somebody with a fancy background, I say it's Minaye. My mother is good. Let's have an exclusive conversation. Anthony Jackson spoke with Minaye Donko.
She's a philanthropist and a humanitarian. She's also the current holder of the Miss Universe Ghana franchise. Our guest for today is Mrs. Minaye Donko Muntari. She joins us now. Okay, so I read you wanted to be a lawyer, but you changed your mind after, something happened along the way.
Yeah, well, it was actually my father's dream. I'm the baby of 7 kids, and I always had my opinion. Like, I would have my opinion with every situation. So my father was like, you need to really get into law. I'll always win every case, like when you're bickering with your siblings. But I was always very vocal, very confident young lady. So Dad said, you know what, you need to try that out. And I considered it, after university. I was like, maybe I should, but then Miss Universe happened and my entire life changed.
Now, I'm sure you listen to a lot of interviews with women, and they usually talk about self-confidence, self-value, and self-worth. Do you see it lacking when we talk about women empowerment today, that we don't really teach women to value themselves?
I think they always say charity begins at home. It's how that individual is being, was raised. I was lucky to come from a home that is very loving and caring, and a home that enabled me to express myself. But when I talk about confidence, it's not just, yes, you need the foundation, which I had from the beginning. But you go out there, your parents will do their very best, but when you as an individual young lady going out there, there's a lot of influences, and Miss Universe gives you a structure where you are Miss Universe, you are a queen. So that itself is, it's a big deal. And I can speak for myself, but I feel that when you, or as myself, as a role model to these young women, it's my responsibility to pass on what I have instilled, what has been instilled in me in the past, and what Miss Universe has done for me. Pass it on to these young women, to empower them, to let them know that whatever they set their minds to, it is possible.
Well, mentioned confidence after winning Miss Universe.
Yeah.
Now,
I've always been a very confident young lady, saying that, because I came from a home, when you come from a home that is loving, everything seems, possible.
Right.
And that was my case. But then it added on to whatever foundation that I had. Yes.
Right. Now, I want to know, a lot of times we have women, well, not women necessarily, girls, who would view beauty pageants as a means to an end, as a means to portray themselves as, well, I have made it in society. What sort of training goes into place during Miss Universe?
Well, it's a series of activities. Well, first of all, it starts with the audition, and even the auditions that we've had in the past, we speak to them, we interview them, and when you're going for an interview, you have to look the part. So it's funny enough, the ladies that have not made it after the auditions have always come back to me to thank the organization, because we speak to them and encourage them in terms of how you look, how you present yourself, how to feel good as a woman. It's maybe for a short period of time, but they always take something vital with them, even if it's an audition, because it's grooming these women. So after the audition period, they go through a series of activities where we talk about confidence level. I had the opportunities to work with 10 amazing young ladies last year. And as a matter of fact, I have employed 2 of them. And their transformation has just been incredible. They came in the house as, you know, very shy and, you know, almost insecure. But going through all these training with us, their lives have changed. Their lives have evolved, and they feel very, you know, confident and powerful as women, which a lot of women lack.
What we find most online bloggers, they would identify you as beautiful, they would identify you as Sule Muntari's wife before your other achievements come. When you see this, do you feel in a way that, well, I've achieved this and I feel this should have come first?
No.
I'm a philanthropist, you could have mentioned that.
No.
But if the opening is always beautiful model.
It's just, you know, it's unfortunate because, you know, when you're labeled in society, you have to work 10 times harder. You know, I have other businesses that I run, and it's not easy being a mother, a wife, and a career woman. Is very difficult to manage your time. So a lot of, you know, people looking in from the outside do not know the dynamics of Mine. I work extremely hard, so, but I don't let it get to me, you know, when they put other titles, but, you know, things that I do that is really important, you know, it's okay. It's their view. What I want to do is I prefer that action speaks louder than words. But I think for the past 2 years, my work has shown what Mine truly is. And people are understanding or respecting that woman, who that woman truly is. It's not just the beautiful model, the soccer player's wife category, that box that they tend to put me in.
Married for 8 years.
Is it?
8 years,
yeah.
You married
yes.
in 2010,
yes.
And you dated for like 2 years before
yeah.
that. So that's like 10 years in all. Are there any misconceptions that you find that because you're a soccer player's wife, people have about you? When you walk into a place and like, oh, that's Sule Muntari's wife. Is there a misconception about who a soccer player's wife is?
It's such a cliche because usually a lot of these soccer players end up with models or actresses, you know, but I think in my case, yes, I had a career before Sule, right? But I'm also bringing something to the table. I happen to be a model, ex-model, but I'm a businesswoman now. And when we sit to chat, we're talking about our businesses. We're building a future together. So yes, I heard, you know, that cliche that, okay, yes, she's a model, she's beautiful, but it doesn't get to me because I know who I am and I know what I bring to the table. That's the most important thing.
You mentioned you sit to chat with Sule about businesses.
Yes.
So what do you go to him for advice? You also give him advice? Like,
no, we share ideas because he's also, you know, he's a soccer player and, you know, the lifespan of you know, their career is very short-lived. So, and he has businesses. So it's not just that glam life that everybody thinks that we live. It's, you know, now we're mature. We've grown together. And it's about our future. It's about our child. Now we're parents. We have our kids or our child looking up to us. So the dynamics have changed.
Do you always say marriage is hard work? Is it harder when you're in the limelight, when you're married to a soccer player? Extremely. Yeah. So how do you work? How do you work on it?
We don't listen to people. We don't listen to the media.
But it's very difficult. Like,
I don't
it's coming
listen.
From all sides. You go online, there's
to
something
be honest,
there.
I don't listen. I'm too busy. I don't have a nanny. I have businesses that I'm running. I don't listen. I don't see it. I brush it off. It doesn't affect me.
Initially,
because I need to change diapers. I need to fix my child his dinner.
Before
I need to pick him up from school.
Before he came into the picture,
I was still very busy. I was still, you know what, maybe in the beginning when we started dating, and obviously, you know, when you have your family constantly being questioned, especially my parents, okay, so your daughter did this, and is this true? You know, they're constantly being questioned, and we come from a society where it's okay, we don't like to be talked about, you know, we're very simple family. And you know, they were concerned. They were very worried, and that affected me because you don't want your parents being worried about you. You don't want them worried about your relationship. You know, so in the beginning it bothered me a bit, but I mean, they got used to it, and it was just one of those things.
Well,
yeah.
I'm finding it a bit difficult to believe that you don't listen, you brush it off.
I don't.
Because
do you see me replying to any articles online? Do you hear me going on TV venting or radio? I never do. I'm busy.
But I'm sure a few months back, just a few months ago, a week or so, announced this expose. I'm sure you chanced upon it. You heard about it.
Of course, it was all over the news.
It was all over the news. Did you feel, when you realized the rot in the Ghana Football Association, how did you feel?
How did I feel?
Yes.
I can't really comment on that because it's in the past. I think from my husband's point of view, he has Ghana at heart. Sule would do anything for this country, and he's a very passionate individual. He loves football, and he felt that was the only, you know, being part of the team was the only way to give back to a country that he loves. Like, he wanted to win a trophy, something. Maybe the African Cup, and his goal was actually the World Cup. That's how far he wanted to take Ghana. But it's all in the past. There's nothing we can do about it. It's gone. We can't change it. So I can't comment about something that we can't do anything about. It's gone.
Well, you probably you see a side of Sule that most people do not see. Is he different at home than he is when it comes to outside?
Definitely.
How's he like in person?
Very quiet. Very quiet. I'm the opposite.
So how does that work? He's very quiet.
We balance. We balance, and our kid is. I mean, he looks exactly like Sule, but his personality is me. Very friendly. You know, laid back. Sule is extremely quiet. Extremely quiet. He does what he does at home, and he's a great father, I would say. He makes sure his family's happy. Hardly talks or argue. You know, as women, we're always bickering. But yeah, he's very, very laid back. Very laid back and a great father.
Would you sabotage any other beauty pageant to put Miss Universe?
Why will I told you, I'm busy. I don't have that time. Why will I do that? You are in the media, but in general, as a businessman or woman, if you have extra funds lying around, wouldn't you invest it into your businesses?
I would.
Right. So does it make sense?
It doesn't.
Right. So do you want me to really answer to that?
Well, I would need an answer from you because it came up, and you know, a lot of social media followers.
You want me to answer that question?
They actually said there was no way it was going to be possible because the people that were mentioned trying to sabotage the Miss Ghana franchise, they were different calibers altogether, you know. So
it makes zero sense. Who comes up with these, you know, stories? Who writes these stories?
Well, it wasn't written. It was a quote that someone made, and it was reported.
Who did? No, really, who did? Next question. Stop. No, really, stop.
Let's talk about Shay. How's it doing?
Shay's doing very well. That's my other baby. It's a brand that celebrates our culture. It's an extension of who I am. It's the Shea brand represents Mine Donkor. I'm a very proud Ghanaian woman, so I wanted to share with the rest of the world some of our beauty secrets by using the raw shea butter and other ingredients from different countries to create something very luxury and new on the market. It's an all-natural brand, but it's highly, it's very luxury, very luxury.
So how's it doing?
Very well. It's been sold in Italy, online, and one boutique here in Ghana.
How do you do the promotion for it?
Promotion?
Yeah,
it's well, Shea is the global brand, so we're not targeting one specific demographics.
Okay.
It's a very global brand. So having it being sold online, we're on social media. We've been featured in a few magazines internationally, such as Vogue, Glamour, Cosmopolitan. So, so far so good. Yeah.
Now, you have definitely broken the traditional conception about who a woman is, much as a married woman who has settled down with a well-to-do man, Sule Muntari, for that matter. Now, what would be your advice to women who are coming up, who still want to chase their career goals, but they still don't want to be left out when it comes to marriage?
I think I've always wanted to be independent, and I always advocate women that want to achieve things on their own. I'm happily married, I'm a mother, but I'm still able to balance both lives, being that mother, wife figure, but at the same time a career woman. It gives you a sense of identity. It makes you a woman. It makes you, I feel at this point in time that, I gave birth. That's incredible. But at the same time, I'm still able to be that entrepreneur that I've always wanted to be. So for me, I think what I'll say to the young ladies that look up to me is you can do it. It's possible. It's not easy, because anything that is easy is not worth it. But, women are very powerful. We just need to tap into it, maybe just 10% to understand our power. And if we do understand that, we're able to accomplish anything that we put our minds to.
Such an interesting interview.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
The sound of silence, I can take it.
And so that was it, an exclusive conversation with Mine Donkor, wife of Sule Ali Muntari. Let's take a look at this one. The disclaimed gold deals. That's it there. The men's gold. But he says he has the license to operate. That's the governor of the Bank of Ghana saying. And then, the Minerals Commission says, consolidate we don't know him for local markets. This is the Minerals Commission. That's Nanapia Mensah with some gold coins playing his xylophone. Interesting times in Ghana, isn't it? Okay, Tilapia is officially a bad boy. Happy birthday to Songstress and Kuna Adoma. Also to you, Barbara Lane Soa, wife of Franklin Soa, my good brother, the Graphic Communications Group Limited. And this from your children, Joy and Zoe as well. Also you to Richmond Paco Rich Poku, the only phantom man with a Russian name. Right. Did you see the cartoon? Yeah, I did. The consolidation?
I think that, we know that there are a series of meetings ongoing between Men's Gold, the Bank of Ghana, Men's Gold, Yoko, trying to deal with the issue. So let's see how it goes. But I think that even if there's anything, I think we should find a way to deal with it after all. Like I said, these are our businesses that we need to support. So let's see how it goes.
Anyway, let's tell you about Don't Call Me. Oh, Don't Call Me. Because as part of our 10th anniversary, Vodafone is giving you the special package. 10 pesos only. You get to get some data, some voice calls, and you get to share with family and friends across, Ghana. It's more like the Kikimi thing. It's an aggravated version of it, an improved version of it. So you go on there, enjoy the Don't Call Me. 10 pesos only. Vodafone, the future is exciting. Are you ready? It's a 10 pesos this thing.
So just 10 pesos.
10 pesos, you're there. 10 pesos, you're there.
Who won't enjoy that?
Yeah,
10 pesos.
The
ones that you drop and you don't even care where it is.
Yeah, what can 10 pesos buy? I can buy you
use that.
Pure water.
Yeah. And so when you dial, we're told that when you dial 135, you enjoy this amazing anniversary offer. Charlie, I have about a load of the 10 pesos there. I'm going to drop all of them.
You're going to drop all of them right now. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Right. Tomorrow will be Wednesday, midweek. For the little doctors.
The week is running fast, though.
Yeah.
Charlie, is it because, what day is today? What date? 14th.
14th, yeah.
Oh, we're in the middle of the month. Charlie?
Yeah.
No, it's not a good time. The packets are already dry. So.
If it's your birthday today, happy birthday to you. See you tomorrow.
Right.
Win. That's all you got to do. Win.